debate. Amid the flaming language debate, PM Modi landed in Chennai to a rousing reception. Unprecedented perhaps. Thousands and thousands lined up to greet the Prime Minister as he made his way from the airport to the venue, where he was laying the foundation stone of a slew of development projects. Prime Minister Modi hailed Tamil culture, calling it global and its language eternal. In his address, the Prime Minister highlighted that a reflection of Tamil culture is visible in every corner of the world. He went on to say that Tamil is a great language, that there is no language in this country that is above any other. Viewers, the Prime Minister was very clear that he believed in the equality, in the parity of all languages. In one fell swoop, he ended the debate about language supremacy, about Hindi. He said every Indian language is equal. It represents the finest traditions, culture equally. This is what the Prime Minister said. Listen in clearly.
Sisters and brothers of Tamil Nadu, Vanakkam. It is always wonderful to be back in Tamil Nadu. This is land, and this land is special. The people, culture, and language of this state are outstanding. The great Bharatiya expressed it beautifully when he said, Tamil Nadu ennam pothinile, imba tenamantu paitu kadinile. The Tamil language is eternal and the Tamil culture is global. From Chennai to Canada, from Madurai to Malaysia, from Namakkal to New York, from Salem to South Africa, the occasion of Pongal and Puttandu are marked with great fervor. The government of India is fully committed to further popularizing Tamil language and culture. In January this year, the new campus of Central Institute of Classical Tamil was inaugurated in Chennai. The new campus is fully funded by the union government.
Massive assurances while the Prime Minister extinguished the Hindi-Tamil rancorous debate, viewers, by clearly saying that his government is committed to the promotion of Tamil, that there is no inequality as far as he is concerned when it comes to languages in this country. Moments earlier, the Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, M.K. Stalin, sought to strike an antagonistic note by revisiting the language row, saying that they will never allow Hindi imposition. And he said this as the Prime Minister looked on. Listen in, viewers.
Honorable Prime Minister, I have just listed out some of the important demands of Tamil Nadu, like Kachativu, NEET Bill, GST dues, Tamil as official language in union government offices and in Madras High Court. I appeal you to consider them favorably as early as possible.
Well, let's open this up, because many people are wondering what was the need to try and once again pick at the seams. Dr. Ranganathan, I don't know if you heard the Prime Minister today spoke in Tamil.
Yes.
he also spoke in English. One is, of course, the link language, and Tamil, of course, is an eternal language, as he said. Yet we had seen the Chief Minister of the state a little while before that picking once again at the seams of a debate that the Prime Minister himself has taken pains to settle. Do you believe that the Prime Minister's Sabka Saath message has been either lost in translation or it is being deliberately being disregarded?
Rahul, there are two issues here, and I'm afraid you're absolutely right. This whole issue is being sadly really politicized. Because no language should be imposed, and no one is imposing it. This kind of scaremongering should end. And I say this, Rahul, as a proud Tamilian. Look, India does not have a national language. And I think that itself explains to a great extent our incredible and beautiful diversity and culture. Hindi along with English is our official language. It is another matter that the architect of our constitution, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, wanted Sanskrit to be our official language. I quote him, quote, Sanskrit should be the language of the Indian Union. For the first 15 years after independence, English could be used as an official language, but Sanskrit should be used as a parallel. After 15 years, Sanskrit should be made the official language of the Union, unquote. I wonder what Chief Minister Stalin would say to Dr. Ambedkar, unquote. Anyhow, Rahul, I am not much of an admirer of any one language over another. To me, all languages are beautiful. They are an incredible endowment of human evolution. They reflect human ingenuity and diversity. There exist around 8,000 spoken languages. And remember, languages like species die out all the time. In the last 50 years, 310 languages have become extinct. But the ideas that are conveyed through those languages never do. They jump ship, fall in love, not with just a language, but with the philosophy and the science and the literature written in it. Protect works before words. Left to me, Rahul, C++ is as beautiful as Tamil or Punjabi, although I do not know any swear words in C++.
Why does my being right make you afraid, Dr. Ranganathan? On a lighter note. But listen, let me bring in America Narayanan. Let me also bring in Amit Malviya and R. Raja Gopalan and Dr. Raman and Gokul Chandran. Now, America Narayanan, why is this deliberate attempt to play the Tamil chauvinist card? I can't understand this. Can you explain? Mr. Narayanan. Gokul Chandran, would you like to take that question? Or Dr. Raman, would you like to take that question? Let me ask Dr. Raman this question first. Dr. Raman, constantly we are seeing, what is there so insecure about?
Rahul, I would look at it in two ways. One, there is a genuine issue of attempted imposition of the language. This is done through multiple ways. You know, typically an MP from Tamil Nadu asks a question and he gets a reply in Hindi, which he cannot understand. This is something that the MP from Madurai, Mr. Venkatesan, has put out several times publicly, saying, please give us replies in English because we don't understand Hindi. Then you have the recruitment exams which get held in Hindi without factoring in the local languages. We had a postal exam to employ postmen who will serve in Tamil Nadu, who were supposed to know Hindi. So there are genuine reasons for the state government, and it's not just the DMK. For the DMK, it's more an ideological, because they need an us versus them as part of their politics. To survive, they need to create an enemy, much like the BJP does. So that way, I see there's a lot of similarity between the DMK and the BJP. In fact, I've repeatedly said they're basically two sides of the same coin. But to be honest, there is a subtle attempt. Whoever is in power, was it happening during the Congress UPA? Yes, it was. Mr. Chidambaram at a Hindi Divas function actually spoke in favor of having Hindi having everyone across the country learn Hindi and so on. So there is a problem. Whoever is in power in the center, and for instance, Mr. Amit Shah, the Home Minister, made a statement just a few weeks ago where he said, you know, we should all look at making Hindi the link language across the country. So there are genuine apprehensions about the imposition of Hindi onto states where who
Okay,
would prefer
Amit
English
Malviya,
as the legal
that's the
language.
apprehension. There is a lingering apprehension, he says. Subtle attempts are made. Some
Rahul,
not
and
so
I've quoted
subtle
examples.
attempts.
Rahul, I lived in Chennai in the 1980s. At that point in time, language chauvinism was the calling card of the political parties there, the Dravidian parties that dominated the state politics there. There were hardly any people who spoke Tamil, even in Chennai. In 2000, when I visit the state, not just in Chennai, but even interiors of Tamil Nadu, there are people who speak fluent Hindi and they are happy to transact and do business in a language that both parties understand. In the heart of Chennai, you have people who speak fluent Hindi, including taxi drivers, people at restaurants, shop, everywhere else. Now, the problem is that the DMK wants to use the same card again that they used perhaps 30, 40 years ago, and they continue to whip up the language sentiment. Number one. Number two, there is no imposition of Hindi. Because when T.R. Balu was the surface road transport minister who comes from the DMK, he was the one who actually put up Hindi signages in Tamil Nadu along with English and Tamil. Would you accuse him of Hindi imposition? Chidambaram, as Home Minister, who comes from Tamil Nadu, spoke for Hindi to be a language that is widely accepted and spoken. Would you accuse him of Hindi imposition? Of course not. This is convenient politics, nothing else. Even Home Minister Amit Shah, who Suman Siraman just quoted, was very clear that we have to conserve our local language, culture and tradition, but have our own Indic language as link language if possible along with English. There is no imposition. It is about ensuring that there is a greater connect. Now I want to ask you, in Delhi, there is a very large population of Tamils who live. In Mumbai, there is a very large contingent of Tamil people who live there. I have never seen any kind of language chauvinism in these places. Of course, if somebody goes to Tamil Nadu and he has to operate and do business, they will learn the local language. I know several businessmen who are Marwadis from Rajasthan and perhaps other parts of the country who actually live in Chennai and have been living there for decades. They speak fluent Tamil. So it's about the utility of the language, it's about being there and assimilating with the people. But when you start using language as a weapon for your politics, this is the kind of rhetoric that you see.
Okay, so it is all.
MK Stalin.
So you're saying it's rhetorical, it's convenience. Gokul Chandran, America Narayanan, let me bring you in on this. You partner the DMK in Tamil Nadu.
Can I come in?
No, let me ask you the question. You partner.
Can I come in?
Can I ask you the question, sir?
Okay. I think the Prime Minister's visit.
Okay, I haven't asked you the question.
For the first time.
I'm sorry I'm speaking English. I don't know how to speak Tamil, but let me try. Let me try, sir.
Sir, you have to allow him to ask the question.
Narayanan Saab, let me just ask the question. I hope you don't mind.
Unfortunately, you're not very audible. So
Okay.
I'm going to go ahead and talk. Hopefully, I'm responding to your question and others.
No, you're not,
Hopefully
since you
can
haven't
hear
heard
me.
my question. Let me bring in Mr. Chandran
Can I
once.
go ahead?
Let's try
Am I on?
let's try reconnecting Mr. Narayanan. Let me bring in Mr. Gokul Chandran. Mr. Chandran, let me just ask you this. The Congress partners with the DMK in Tamil Nadu. And it of course talks about, also echoes the DMK's problems about Hindu imposition, etc., etc., Hindi imposition. Suman Siraman, you may as well also take this question. But the same Congress partners the Shiv Sena in Maharashtra that terrorized Tamils. So I don't understand. Is it, as Mr. Malviya is saying, just all about convenience, the politics of convenience?
Look, Rahul, let's be very honest about this. These are parties where the regional identity, the language identity sort of defines their politics. So for the DMK, I don't see any reason why they should not do it, because this is what they have done.
I'll tell you
for
why.
50 years.
Sir, I'm sorry. Let me bring in Mr. Raja Gopalan also. I'll tell you why. Because you're creating a division in Indian society. You are making now Tamils feel that their culture is under attack when it's not. When it's
similar
not.
to how the BJP is creating a division.
Two wrongs
That's
don't
why
make a
I
right.
said-
Even if the BJP is doing it, two wrongs don't make a right. Okay, let me bring in.
Great.
Okay, so you're saying the BJP is doing it. We are only responding in the same coin. Mr. Rajagopalan, how do you react?
I agree with Mr. Amit Malviya. I go beyond Mr. Dr. Sumant Raman, because in Tamil Nadu, Amit Malviya visited 2 decades ago, 20 years ago, because he said in 2000 he went. He must go now. 80% of Tamil restaurants, 80% of shops in major towns in Chennai, Tirunelveli, Tanjavur, they speak Hindi. Hindi domination, especially Biharis and UP walas. That prompted Minister Ponmudi, Nehru and others to say, जो भी पानी पूरी बेचते हैं वो सारा हिंदी वाला है. मैं भी हिंदी बोलता हूँ, मैं पानी पूरी तो नहीं बेचते हैं. लेकिन my understanding is, things are divided in Tamil Nadu. Intentionally, DMK is whipping it up. When they were in power in 4 governments in 18 years, they never saw that Hindi imposition. They enjoyed power. When a government, the majority came to center, they started this Hindi fanatism. My understanding is, there are DMK MPs and MLAs who own colleges and schools, including the relatives of the powers that be in Tamil Nadu. In their schools, they teach Hindi as a second language. There are paid seats are there. Sumant Raman knows it, Amit Malviya knows it, and America Narayanan knows it. But they won't confirm that. The reason being, Hindi is being whipped up against the Chuanism, as you mentioned, against Tamil. So they want to propagate that. Today, Prime Minister Narendra Modi spoke well on other issues that provoked Mr. M.K. Stalin. Why they are bringing Hindi again and again? In Tamil Nadu, the BJP has put a foothold. 7 pan-India Tamil Nadu votes are for BJP. They went alone in Tamil Nadu without alliance with ADMK during the civic elections.
Okay.
They were polled 7%. That provoked M.K. Stalin to speak against Prime Minister, against Hindi, and even
the
not
growing
to photograph with
popularity,
Narendra Modi.
says Mr. Rajagopalan, of the BJP, according to him, is leading to Mr. Stalin attacking the BJP, describing it as a Hindu party. By lighting these fires of sub-nationalism, pitting South versus North, embracing the likes of Perarivalan, you are actually militating against the Union of India, Dr. Raman. That's what is being said here.
Rahul, there are 2 different issues. I have strongly come out and condemned the reception that was given to Perarivalan. That's a different issue.
But it's a common thread, you see. You play the Tamil chauvinist card, you play the Tamil nationalist card, then you come out and say that all languages are also not as great as Tamil. We want
the Hindutva card which the BJP plays.
No, you are saying yourself. There are people who are saying Pani Puri sellers are Hindi speakers.
Look, anybody who uses such terms deserves to be condemned. I have no unequivocal terms condemned the minister who made that Pani Puri statement. That is completely unacceptable.
Okay.
The point is, there is a genuine fear in Tamil Nadu that Hindi is being imposed. I gave you 5 examples. Nobody is countering those examples.
Wrong, he says. Rajagopalan says wrong.
There is no such, because
I have given an example, sir. I will send you the postal exam form that happened 2 years ago.
Sumant Raman, I want to take 1 minute.
Please look at Mr. Su Venkatesan, the Madurai MP's Twitter line. He has put out clearly. So you go and see it. If you don't believe me, go and look at it. It's all online.
Dr. Ranganathan wants to come in. Okay. Dr. Ranganathan wants to come in.
No, I want to suggest a solution, because yet again, Rahul, the tragedy is that we did not heed the advice of Dr. Ambedkar. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I am. He was against the geographic division of states along linguistic lines. He said, just draw straight lines and latitudinal and longitudinal. Had that happened, half of Tamilians would be learning Telugu, Keralites will be learning, Maharashtrian or whatever. We would have been a genuinely diverse, at the same time united nation. But unfortunately, right now we believe that we are not a nation at all. What can I say?
Well, some people say that were just a union of states. That's also been said, and that's been
Including
said by
Rahul
the
Gandhi.
Congress supporters of the DMK. So maybe there is something larger at play. Maybe there is, viewers, some sort of considered attempt to try and strike at the union and the unity of this country. Who knows? Who knows? But America Narayanan is now with us. America Narayanan, I just want to ask you, the Prime Minister goes out of his way to say that, look, all languages are equal. In fact, Tamil is an eternal language. He says there is no way anyone wants to stymie its growth. The government is committed, in fact, to its growth. Yet you are lighting this parochial fire. Why? Mr. Narayanan, why?
The problem is, one, I want to say Vanakkam Modi and welcome my Prime Minister to Tamil Nadu.
2 minutes.
But the most importantly, the left hand of the government does not know what the right hand is doing. On the one hand, the Prime Minister says and eulogizes and praises the Tamil. On the other hand, the most important person in his cabinet says that he wants to impose Hindi, and it looks like the Prime Minister does not have control. The government is doing the other thing.
Amit, respond to Mr. America Narayanan. The left doesn't know what the right is doing. I don't know which is the right, but please go ahead.
I don't know, maybe he's confusing the BJP with the Congress, a party he owes allegiance to. But we clearly know what we are doing, and the Prime Minister was very clear when he spoke in Tamil Nadu. He spoke very fondly about the Tamil culture and the language. He also spoke about the kind of development.
Okay, let him finish, sir. Now you asked him a question, you let him finish.
Support to Sri Lanka, which has a lot of Tamil population.
Okay.
But having said that, Rahul, let me be very clear. The country has to be united. Its language, culture, beliefs are all part of it. We can't build a nation by being exclusivist, which is what M.K. Stalin in Tamil Nadu at the regional level and Rahul Gandhi at the national level is attempting.
Well,
they will not find any traction.
Has the message, has the Sabka Saath message been lost in translation, or is it being deliberately misinterpreted? I began with that. I leave you viewers to ponder it. I'm also being told that an FIR has been filed against the Muslim side as we wrap out of this show for the desecration or alleged willful damage that has been caused to the shivling. Yes, so a complaint has been filed. Let's see if the FIR is filed on the basis of this complaint. I stand slightly corrected. Religious nature of the place of the shivling is being changed. This is what is being said. Complaint filed against the mosque panel. I leave it at this, viewers.